I had no idea what was happening. I didn't understand it, so I didn't get it. I thought it was just some nonsense for preschoolers, and so when we did the pilot, I just forgot about it, and I took my $600 and I went home. And then about 6 months
Wait,
later,
they give you $600?
oh, cat's out
Score!
of the bag.
I got two.
What was it, like 8 months later, we got the pilot in the mail and on a videotape, on a
VHS
VHS.
tape.
And I watched it and I went, oh, I just saw one of the best cartoons I've ever seen. And it's about 8 minutes long. It's a spectacular cartoon. So I was very excited. But you know, when you're an actor, you don't know if it's going to have any success. You don't know.
No, it's a total roll of the dice. But I had known Stephen Hillenburg and worked with him on a previous show called Rocko's Modern Life that was an early 90s Nicktoon. And he was the creative director on that show. And he and I just clicked. We just got along very well. And, he seemed to like what I did. I loved what he did. And then a couple of years after after Rocko ended, he pitched his own idea that he had percolating in his brain for years, really for years, and he pitched it, and he had me in mind as the titular character,
Easy.
and he yeah, it was kind of amazing. Like, and so he showed it to me. I saw SpongeBob when it was just on paper a long time before he pitched it to Nickelodeon, and it was all there. Everything that people respond to now about the show was there in two-dimensional Steve Hillenburg drawn form.
But
And
did you have any sense of, oh, wow?
yes,
Oh, you did? Wow.
yeah. Well, I knew I loved it. I knew I loved it. I always say it's one of the few times, because like Bill was saying, you just audition for things as an actor. Some of it you get, most of it you don't, and you just hope to keep body and soul together. But with SpongeBob, I knew that if I didn't play that character, I would be sad. It would make me sad. And
We don't like it when he's sad.
yeah, most things you go, if I get it, great. If I don't get it, I can deal. But with SpongeBob, I was like, I don't want to hear any other person voicing this character. I get this guy. I want to be this guy. So Steve always wanted me, but I was just hoping that the suits up the food chain agreed with his choice, which he was able to prevail upon them. So yeah.
That's the question we often get. And very often creative people at other studios lean in. But uh, there is something special that happens in one person's creative brain, and it somehow is able to congeal and take shape under their leadership, under very certain people. He cast it beautifully. Uh, the imagery, the visual humor, the rhythms, the of the characters, the way the characters interconnect. There's so many elements, and a part of it is just some kind of magic alchemy, you know.
Yeah, Steve just saw it. It was all him. He knew what kind of music he wanted and what color palette he wanted and what actors he wanted to work with and what animators he wanted to work with, many of which were from Rocko's Modern Life. That was kind of one of those training ground shows for all of us was
Yeah, a lot of
Rocko's Modern Life.
actors and creative people.
Yeah, a lot of the
Writers.
OG writers, animators, storyboard people, colorists of came from Rocko's Modern Life, because that was the first job for all of us. But yeah, all those design elements, like the flowers on the back of the sky, all that, like that was all there in the binder that Steve showed me in 1996. And it's just still such an outstanding achievement to me that he was able to visualize all of it. Yeah, and it's funny.
And Nickelodeon left him alone. They let him do, for the most part, what he, that's, you gotta.
Yeah, if you let creative people be creative, that seems like that would be a natural thing for networks to do, but it's hard for them to curb their instinct to interfere and put their fingerprints all over everything. But
And one thing I have to say that to me is critical with the show is it can be unabashedly tender, but without being sickly sweet. its tenderness is interwoven with wit, and that's to a secret sauce that is hard to manufacture just as a goal on its own.
Yes,
That
and it
was
can also be unabashedly stupid, unabashedly
100%.
hyperactive, unabashedly
Well, a lot of
non
stuff is
sequitur.
a lot of
You
stuff
know,
is
I
that,
mean, the
but
great thing is, along with that tenderness, you know, my point being that all of that without the heart would kind of not have the same have the same effect. But the heart is
you have to connect to
the
the
secret
characters.
ingredient to it all. But the great freeing thing about animation and the surreal world of SpongeBob is that it kind of is open to anything. It can be, you know, you can make fun of anything, you can be silly, you can be dramatic, like Bill said, you can be, you know, transparently emotional, not in an arch way, and it all works because the characters are so delineated, are so clearly delineated, and people like the characters and give the characters a lot of leeway. You know, viewers, fans just like the characters and like spending time with them. So, you know, that's a gift. That again, that's alchemy that every show is looking for. You want to
Right.
create a show where people go, I want to hang out. I want to hang out
Yeah,
with these characters.
you want to connect and care for the characters.
Yeah, I want to go to
Did you ever
Bikini
hear
Bottom.
the story? I don't know if it's apocryphal, but some studio exec would go through an animation script and assign comedy points or heart points, and he wanted something that had both comedy and heart points.
Wow, the Venn
Right.
diagram.
That's
Wow.
that's the business breakdown.
Wow, that's like Vulcan comedy. That's like comedy as written by Mr. Spock.
Oh, it started with him. It all started with we had everyone else that auditioned because he pretty much had it. Got to hear what Tom was doing with the lead, and that really set the table, if you will. Um,
Yeah, Steve cast it very tonally, like you knew SpongeBob was up here, and he needed a sidekick that was down there, and I needed a guy that was here, and the guy that was here, and you know, you know,
Sandy.
and a female voice that was up there, and
Right.
he really was conscious of all those tonal
Do
frequencies.
you think he knew about Mrs. Puff? Do you think he had that plan? Because Mary Jo Catlett brought
Mrs.
this.
Puff, SpongeBob's
Mrs.
voting
Puff
teacher.
brought this impervious kind of
Yes,
that
yes.
I don't. Did you think he was looking for
I
that?
think he saw her in commercials and sitcoms, and just said, "Yeah, just." I mean, he pretty much just brought us in and said to each of us individually, "Just you be you,
Just
just
do
you
what
do
you
you,
do. That's
do
true.
what you do. You're being hired
Yeah.
for you know, you've got the job for a reason. You know, I hired you for a reason. Just do that." You know, he was very giving that way, but you know, he cast us for, you know, I know he told me he cast me because I was sort of like SpongeBob anyway in real life, so that
This
was
is
kind
true.
of a no-brainer.
Both of you guys are/were was sadly with Steam, but yeah, you both had qualities of SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everyone who has not left this mortal coil is yeah. We've all been with the show. No, you hang on to something. Are you kidding? You're locked. If you get a good job in this dopey business, man, you hang on to it with bare knuckled ferocity.
Yeah, so you know, the cast is all the same, unchanged. Knock on
Yeah,
wood. You know, we
we have
lost Steve
so much
obviously,
fun.
which was gigantic loss, but everybody
Yeah,
else, you know, and you know, we've lost a couple of people over the years, artists, and you know, to mortality. You know,
and then
but
some people come back. Like
yes,
some creative people have
yes,
left
it's so
and come back.
so now the show is staffed by a mix of old dogs and young puppies who grew up
Mhm.
loving SpongeBob, and it's their dream job, and so it's kind of a beautiful thing,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
pretty awesome. I mean, here they fall in love with the cartoon when they're kids. They study animation at Cal Arts Valencia or whatever, and then their first job is on SpongeBob. It's to have that level of excitement, in the writing room after 25 years is pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I think you need that. I think you need like the crusty old timers that know how to steer the ship, and you need that puppy energy too, that new blood puppy energy of
Aye.
kids. Yeah, I've been writing SpongeBob scripts in my head since third grade in 1999. So right? It's a
And that's
great
great
it's
stuff
a
to
great
bring.
mix. Band geeks.
It was always the pilot. I really do believe the pilot is one of the greatest cartoons ever made. It is a perfect way to introduce the viewer to a world while at the same time being so charming and delightful. And the piece of music he used there, the Tiny Tim having a wonderful time.
Yeah, from Tiny Tim's debut album.
And I don't think I've heard it was it was hard for him to secure that and get the funding, etc. But
Right, to have the music
perfect
clearance. Yeah,
when that song starts and SpongeBob starts this incredible thing where he's making all these Krabby Patties for the flood of anchovies. It's to me so exhilarating and delightful. Yeah, the pilot.
well, in a lot of ways, Tiny Tim and SpongeBob are kind of kindred spirits,
Yeah.
like these oddballs that kind of don't fit into the regular world, but they're sort of unabashedly themselves. I can understand why he really wanted that Tiny Tim song.
Yeah.
It's because it's perfect. Everything Steve did was perfect.
Did he mention it to you when
Yeah.
he showed you the stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
man.
yeah.
Man.
We talked about Tiny Tim. I had very inside baseball, but I had opened some shows for Tiny Tim when I was doing stand up as a stand up comedian before I did voiceover.
Wow.
And
Interesting crowd.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, it was all hipsters, at that point. But so yeah, we were Steve and I were kind of united in our fascination with Tiny Tim, and just kind of that kind of old style music. Tiny Tim was in the 60s reaching back to stuff from the 20s, and
Yeah, he was very much connected to a different period of entertainment.
now Tiny Tim would be like a gigantic TikTok star.
For sure.